Welcome to November's Intermediate Sampler for Close to Home here in Southington. You can bring in your October's finished block beginning this Friday, November 11th, after 10 a.m. through the end of November, being November 30th, to receive November's kit free. Okay. Watch your emails for upcoming holiday event specials now through Christmas, and a special event for our Saturday Sampler participants. We have discounts on November 12th, on Saturday the 12th, and Saturday the 19th. We have extra deals on quilting machines, long arms, and sit downs. All machines in stock. Come on out and check us out. So here we are in November. We are going to be working on the Creative Grid 30 Degrees Starburst ruler. 2 rulers in this block this month. We have the Starburst, which is a 30-degree Dresden. Also, we're going to be working, and we've done this before, this is a Flying Geese unit, and it measures a finished 3-inch by 6-inch. So we're going to be using the Elena Burns Quilt in a Day small Flying Geese ruler for this, which we've used already this year. So I will not be going over this, but I will be showing you the 6-inch square center and the 3-inch corners. All right, so a couple things on the cutting. I didn't include everything on here, but they're on your directions when you pick up your kit. The white, the first thing you want to do is the long direction is cut a 3.5-inch strip and get your corner pieces, your 3.5-inch white corner backgrounds. The next thing you're going to do is get your 9-inch square. That is for the wings of your Flying Geese, and your 6.5-inch, which is your background center block for November's block. You'll be getting 2 pieces of multi. You'll be getting a square piece that gets cut 7.5, and you'll be getting a long multi. So there's 2 of those, and this one is 5 3-inch squares. And this is just a guesstimate, a rough measure. It could be 3, 3.25. It doesn't matter, and I'll show you why in a minute. So what I've done, I've gone ahead and cut a few strips. One more thing I'm going to show you real quick, sorry. The Dresdens that we're doing, these 30-degree pieces here, we're doing them in blue, and then we're also doing them in a multicolor, and we're going to applique them with a blanket stitch on our background pieces. We're going to applique the 3 blues, then we're going to applique the 3 multicolors, then we're going to applique the circles. So with that said, we're going to have to cut 8 pieces of 3 blues. So in other words, 24 blue wedges, and we're going to cut 8 green, 8 purple, and 8 pink. And I'll show you how to cut, because these are 2 different sizes, same strip size, 2.5 to start, but where you place them on your ruler really makes a difference. So let's go take a look at the strips and take a look at our ruler. All right, so we've done this ruler in the past, mostly in basic. I don't think I've done it for intermediate, but it's called the Starburst 30 degree, and it's a creative grid, so it has the grippers all the way around the sides and down the middle. You'll notice it starts at 1 inch, up, 2-inch, 3-inch, 4-inch, 5-inch. These are all 30-degree angles, so you'll need 3 of these, obviously in a 90-degree corner. So let's get started, and we're going to cut our small ones first. Our small ones being the multi. Now these aren't the size of the strips in length, this is just for demonstration purposes, but these are all cut at 2.5 inches wide. So I'm just going to lay them on top of each other, and I'm going to cut them all at the same time. So when we're using the ruler for the color green, purple, pink pieces, we're going to be looking for the black line that says a number 3 on it, and that is going to go along the top edge, and when I rotate it, it's going to go along the bottom edge and rotate it to the top, to the bottom, to the top again. So the 3 at the top and then the 1/2 inch at the bottom. But I wouldn't be so concerned too much about the 1/2 inch. It's the 3 number that you should be looking at, okay? Because that's 2.5 inches. So all I'm going to do is go ahead and start my cut and get my first wedge. It's a 2.5 inch strip, the 3 line and the 1/2 inch line. So I'll go ahead, whoop, flip this around, and I'm going to cut 8 of these going across. So find my number 3, put it right there, and keep cutting. All right, so that's very important for the multicolors, to look for the 3 and the 1/2. All right, so let's go to the blue. Again, I have 3 of the dark blue. Again, they're not the length that they should be, but they're for demonstration purposes. So I'm just going to lay the 2.5 inch strips on top of each other. This time, when I'm doing the larger pieces, the larger blue blades for the Dresden, what I'm going to be looking for is the number 1 at the bottom. You remember last time we had the 3 up here and then the 1/2? So I'm pushing this down to make a larger wedge. So this is actually the 3.5 and the 1. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these. Very important that you look for those numbers. All right. So this forms a little bit wider wedge, which is going to give us our background piece. Flip this around. I look for the number 1, and then it just goes to 3.5, and flip it around again. You could put a piece of tape here just to identify, you know, where your strip is going to go if you're confused or think you might overlook one of the lines. But we're just going to go ahead and make, again, 8 of those petals. Okay. Once we get the petals, we're going to make them into, we're going to sew them into these little units right here. So to do that very easily, I'm going to go ahead and take one. And now we should have 48 of these. Love me. Okay, so 48. And we're going to put the longest or the widest top of our 2.5 inch strip together, wrong sides up, right sides together. And we're going to sew 1/4 inch from this edge, from the raw edge, over to the fold. So I'll go ahead and do that. And you're going to have a very long piece that's going to go all 24 blue and then all 24 of the multicolors. The pink, 8 pink, 8 green, 8 purple. All right, so once I have all of those cut, what we're going to do is we need to trim away the bulk where the point is going to be. So you see my line of stitching is right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut right above that and kind of at an angle. So what that does is it gets rid of a lot of the bulk when I flip it right side out. So at this point, now that I'm holding it, I'm just going to crease this real good with my finger, because when I flip this around, I'm going to use my point turner seam creaser. I'm going to take that point and gently poke out the point of my petal. That crease that I made in the center, I need to align my sewn seam here with the line, the crease. So I'm going to place it right there, because here's my crease right down the middle. So once I have it, I'm just going to go ahead and press them. So what I would do is probably trim them all, crease them all, turn them to a point, and there we go. All right, now to sew them together, we're going to sew them into 8 units of 3 each. So all the blues go together, so I'm going to need 3 blues. So to sew these together, I'm going to put right sides together, and I need to start sewing a 1/4 inch below this fold. Well, I don't want to start right up here and right onto my petals. I actually want to back up just so the needle goes off the petal and then back on and then stitch a 1/4 inch. And the reason I do that is because the threads will hang out down here and not between the 2 petals when they're open. These will be nice and locked and very secure when I go to open them. So let's try it. Let's put a petal together. They should be the same size. So when I put this in, I'm going to start it right about here where the dark blue right side of my fabric is showing. So I'll put that in right about there. I'm going to hold my threads over to the side. I'm going to push my reverse, and I'm going to step on the foot control and take a couple stitches backwards until my needle goes just off the fabric. At this point, I can go forward and complete the entire seam. Okay, and I'll get the next pair ready, and then the next pair, and you can set all these up ahead of time. All right, so you see that the thread is out to the side, and it's not up here where we're going to see it. So we'll go ahead and trim those. And we have our first petal. The next petal goes on the exact same way. We put them together. We start at a 1/4 inch down. We sew in reverse first, and as soon as the needle goes over the fold, we can continue down the end. So what I've done is I've created a bunch of 3-piece blocks, okay? So these will go, and it doesn't matter in which order you put your color pieces, whatever's pleasing to you, just keep them consistent, all right? All right, so what we've done is we're gonna need 4 for the corners, and we're gonna need 4 for the centerpiece. I have already sewn these 3 to these 3, and I've sewn these 3 to these 3, and I've created a half. So now what I'm going to do is sew the 2 halves together. So it's the same thing. I put the 2 pieces on each other. I start at a 1/4 inch low, I go backwards and then forwards. So let's do that and complete this centerpiece. Hold my reverse, hit the foot control, a couple stitches, just until the needle pops off the edge, and then back. Keep those raw edges right on top of each other. Okay. And then we're going to close up the other side. Now I have all this going around. I just want to sew these together, and again put those right on top of each other. Start sewing backwards and then forwards. Okay. All right, hold my reverse. So now I've done the same thing. I've made 4 sets of 3 in the blue, and I've made 4 sets of multi of the pink, green, and purple, and I put those aside for the corner. The other 4 are for our center Dresden. So what I like to do is press this in one direction, but press this one in the opposite. So if this one's going this way, I'm going to go ahead and press all these in the opposite direction. So you want to just be very gentle. I used a lot of starch, a lot of best press. And notice how I turn my iron in a circle so that the nose of my iron is always pointing in the center, and I'm not going outwards with it. I'm just kind of holding it and pressing it. All right, so that they all go in the one direction. And this way, when I put them on top of each other, I don't have bulk in the seams. Okay. All right, one last final press. And now it's time for applique. So what we're going to do is we're going to locate our center position on our 6.5 inch center square, just by folding and creasing. Make sure I have the right side. So I have my points of reference. I can go ahead and use my seam on the fold. Where is it? Right here. Right there. Here's my fold. And the seam, and the seam, and the fold. So that's where that's going. And you should have a good 1/4 of an inch plus a little bit, probably more like 3/8 of an inch going around the outside. All right, so take your pin, go ahead and pin this down, and you're going to put your tearaway behind it, and we've done applique in the past. So the first thing you want to do is do your blanket stitch, or however you want to do this by hand, it's okay too. We're just going to go around the entire outside with a blanket stitch. Once that's done, we're going to go ahead and we're going to place our inner piece. And we're going to line up our lines with each of these. But wouldn't it be pretty if I just turned it ever so slightly and it came a little bit off, and you could applique it just like that if you'd like. It's whatever you want to do. So we're going to applique this one down all the way around, and then we're going to make a center. So to make the center, I've taken some scraps of tearaway stabilizer. I'll give you the circle, but I'm just using the inside of this. This will be about the size of the circle that I give you. And we're going to take those 3.5 inch pieces of multi that we cut, and I'm going to look for a really pretty spot that I want my centerpiece to be at. I have a little bit of pink, a little purple. That one looks great. So I'm going to take this over and I'm going to sew just on the outside edge by like 1/8 of an inch around that line. I know you can sew on the line, but I know it works better for this circle if I just stitched a little bit outside the line. So here's my line, and I'm just going to go just on the outside. So I reverse, take a couple lacking stitches, and take a couple stitches, needle down, and pivot, and pivot. Okay, we're going to go all the way around. The slower you go, the more circular it is, the better it's going to look. If you take too many stitches going forward, you might have a flat side to your circle. So just take your time, lift your foot up a little bit. Some people have a machine that actually hovers when they have their needle down. I would definitely use that feature. Takes a few seconds here, almost there. All right, coming to the end, and again, just reverse, lock my stitch. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut around this circle about 1/8 of an inch away from that cut line. You can see the circle that I drew, and I stitched just to the outside of it, and now I'm cutting to the outside of that. It doesn't have to be pretty. Just don't get too close. All right. Then what we're going to do is just dig in here into the tearaway. And again, we put the tearaway on the right side of our fabric because we're going to pull the edges over. And I'm just going to cut a little X out of my tearaway. Okay, I'm going to take my thumb and get under there and just pop that right out. We're going to flip this right side out. And we're going to take our point turner seam creaser and we're going to go around the corners. And we're going to go around the corner and get a nice circle, and then we're going to give it a good press. Okay. Take your time, take your time. I'm hurrying, but you guys take your time. I think this whole project, this whole block, may take you about 3 hours. Or more. All right, so I have a nice circle with all my edges brought to the other side, and I'm just going to take it and give it a nice little press. All right, so you're going to need 5 of those, 1 for the center, and we're going to applique that on, and then 1 for the side piece. So on this one, what I did is I took my 3.5 inch, I even appliqued it, I took my 3.5 inch corner piece, I placed a 3-petal blue right on this background, right into the corner, and it lines up very nicely with these 2 edges right here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's there. Okay, so those are laying right inside, and I appliqued that on. Then I took another 3 set of my colors, and again, being 90 degrees, it's going to sit perfectly right into that corner, and go ahead and applique that on. So the last thing to do is to put our circle on. So where does the circle go? Well, I found that if I flipped this over and I put the circle about 1/4 inch away from the edge, I had equal sides here, and it was plenty. I'm going to trim that off, but it seemed to be a nice complement to the circle, okay, and it got about the same amount as my center. So I'll show you again. On the back, I placed it pretty close to the edge with equal sides. I pinned it, and then we blanket stitched. All right, once you blanket stitch around it, you can go ahead and take your ruler, your creative grid ruler, place it in the 3.5 inch square, and just go ahead and trim that off, and that'll be your 3.5 inch corner. So blanket stitch, blanket stitch, blanket stitch, and then trim. So once you have those 4 and you have your center done, back to our block. It's simply a 9 patch. Quite easily, you can turn these in any direction that you would want. If you want to turn these in the other direction, that's fine too. You can play around a little bit with it, but this is 4 of those units. This is just exactly a corner, except it has the 1 circle. So we're going to need 5 circles, 1 for each corner that we're going to trim, and 1 for the center. Okay, so again, it's going to take a little bit of time. You're just going to put your 9 patch together. What else do you need? Probably An open toe foot would be very helpful. I have this blue thread that I thought matched very nicely with the dark blue. There was also a pink somewhere, but the pink works too for the inside piece. On the floor. Yep, pink. That's it. Some pins, the small Quilt in a Day Flying Geese ruler, and of course the Starburst 30-degree ruler for the fans. All right. So we are winding down this year in 2022. We'll see you this weekend to pick up your kit, and have a great holiday. Thanks.